Hi everyone, my name is James and I'm a recovering reseller.
I'd like to start out that way because it is truly a noble profession what all of you do. You fight the good fight every day. Resellers have no price advantage, they have no geographic territories, they have very little intellectual property of their own. It really is sort of amazing how you stay in business each and every day. And there have been a few ahas as we've sort of that led to this research. So we'll just start with that. So aha number one is this thing we call the SAG effect, and that's the solution adoption gap. And this arose from some work we did starting in 2006. And so what we do essentially is we ask people when you're making a technology decision, we ask them a whole bunch of questions about how they did it and what they did. And they have to base it on an actual answer. So we looked at about 16 different solution types, and half of them were application solutions and half of them were infrastructure solutions. And we asked end users, it's kind of a throw-in question, before you started to make this decision to implement a virtualization solution or ERP or whatever the solution was, we asked them, how knowledgeable were you about the technology before you began to make this purchase? And so we always ask, one, not knowledgeable at all, 6, extremely knowledgeable. And so what we did was we sort of stumbled onto the fact that if you said, kind of 3 and under is not knowledgeable, 4 and up is knowledgeable, you could get a rough approximation on this issue of whether they were knowledgeable before they bought the solution or whether they were not knowledgeable before they bought the solution. And then we kind of cut the data by by the number of PCs or the number of desktop devices, the number of endpoint devices that the IT manager was responsible for. And so if you chart up the people who were knowledgeable, you'll see that when you start here with, I support 1 to 5 PCs as an example, people were not very knowledgeable. And that makes perfect sense because he's probably not a dedicated IT guy at that level. He's, does 5 other jobs in the company. He's not going to be knowledgeable on solutions. And so not surprisingly, as you kind of went up to 10 and 25, people began to get more knowledgeable. So that knowledge bar rose up. And it continues to rise till you get to about 50. And then at 50, a funny thing happened. And that funny thing was that all of a sudden, there weren't as many knowledgeable people by percentage when they made a technology decision. And this held true through all of the kind of technologies that we looked at in this study. And sure enough, as the companies got bigger, they got more IT resources, people could be more specialized, and so they began to get more knowledgeable and more knowledgeable. But then when we got to 250, guess what happened? They were down here again. People were not knowledgeable about 250. So, and this pattern kind of repeats itself at various inflection points. And so we spent a lot of time, well not me, but the smart people, spent a lot of time trying to think of why this would be. Why would it be? Because why would a person who supports 250 end user devices be dumber than a person who supports 200 and he's not. He's not dumber, he's not less sophisticated, etc., etc. Anyway, so we concluded what was happening was that you get to certain natural inflection points in an organization where what you do is just more complex than you're capable of understanding. And so you have these two things that are going on in an IT department. One is that they begin to get larger and as the company grows and there are more specialists in it. So that's increasing the knowledge. But then they also start to take on, as they grow, tasks that are beyond their current set of capabilities. And so we call that the SAG effect. And it really is why the people in this room are so important to the vendor community. Number 2, who sells my stuff? So I was out in San Jose talking to a very large vendor of technology solutions. And my life, maybe like yours, I mostly talk to people in Canada who tend to run, so, some of the folks in this room, people who run channel programs, my distributor, et cetera, et cetera. I really wasn't prepared. I mean, intellectually, I know that IBM and Cisco and HP are these huge organizations. But I really wasn't prepared until I got into the research business and started actually going to head offices for how large they are. I mean, people say, I say, well, do I meet you in your head office? They said, meet me in building 247. And all of these buildings are full of lots and lots of people. They have product managers, and they have marketing people, and they have tons of engineers. And here's the thing, unlike the people that you deal with every day who have this, sort of closeness to your business and therefore closeness to your customers, the people in all those buildings who are actually building the products and creating the programs and deciding what features and how they'll roll out to market, they don't have a close connection to what's going on with the customer. In fact, when they see what they shipped in a month, they see they shipped, 6,200 widgets to Tech Data, but they don't know which of you bought the 6,200 widgets in what quantity from Tech Data. So they can't see the channel. But it's even worse than that, because then you turn around and sell that to your customers. So they're disintermediated from that customer process significantly by 2 layers of distribution. Again, I know it sounds obvious, but I'm sitting there, and this company is a very sophisticated organization. One that I'm sure everyone in this room sells their products. And the guy who's in charge of mid-market market intelligence says to me, would you happen to know where our stuff actually goes? Like, who's selling it and who are they selling it to? And I was just sort of kind of a bit taken aback, because I thought they would know all this. But they didn't, and then I started asking other vendors, do you know how your product gets into the hands of customers through 2 layers of distribution? And nobody really did. So, really, who sells my stuff? Again, I know it sounds obvious, but I'm sitting there, and this company is a very sophisticated organization. One that I'm sure everyone in this room sells their products. And the guy who's in charge of mid-market market intelligence says to me, would you happen to know where our stuff actually goes? Like, who's selling it and who are they selling it to? And I was just sort of kind of a bit taken aback, because I thought they would know all this. But they didn't, and then I started asking other vendors, do you know how your product gets into the hands of customers through 2 layers of distribution? And nobody really did. So, really, who sells my stuff? That was kind of an aha. And following along those lines, tech companies are run by engineers, to a large extent. There are tons and tons of engineers in those companies, and as you well know, they love, to throw more and more and more and more features into products. Many of those features are something that the people are never going to use. And again, you see this every day. We all see this every day, whether it's the latest features in Office 2007, whether it's me and my BlackBerry. They don't really know what customers want, not just in terms of features, but in terms of how they want to selectively purchase those things. So that was kind of the third aha that drove this research. And then this is the 4th one. And I always tell, vendors are always coming to us saying, can you help us with partner satisfaction? And frankly, I don't think partner satisfaction is the issue. I think the issue for the vendor community is, how do I engage the right partners and support them in the right way so that they, number 1, lead with my solution, and number 2, win deals and have satisfied customers. So partner happiness is great. We thank all the vendors for those wonderful marketing programs, but which ones actually work, and how can they equip you to do a better job for customers?
I'm here with Adam Belzicki, the director of SHI Canada, who's new to the market here in Canada. Adam, what did you think of James Alexander's presentation?
I thought there were some really good insights in there. Clearly, they've gone through the research and have the background in the industry to be able to give us hopefully a leg up. And it's encouraging to see more research directed at the channel versus just at either on the customer or vendor level.
I think it's excellent. It's confirmed us what we are doing in the right path, like virtualization and have the relationship. I think we believe in KLM, believe in the relationship with the customer and the importance of satisfaction with customer, and then give you a long way the customer for your company.
Actually, I think it was quite interesting, especially because we spend so much time with the nose on the grindstone that it's great to get your head above water, I guess, and see what what the macro view of the industry is. So he brings us that point of view.
One of his points was to really strengthen relationships. You're new to the market here in Canada. How key is that to your business?
Well, I mean, clearly the relationships with our partners have enabled us to get more of a foothold in the market, but at the end of the day, we really have to focus on our customer relationships, and so far they've responded well.
Now, your company is really big into managed services. One of the issues in the educational sessions was actually selling prepackaged services from vendors. Why is that such a problem area for your kind of business?
Because we are a managed service provider, we're trying to make that recurring revenue. We don't want to do prepackaged because the competition come in place and the margins goes down, and that's why we don't want to have a prepackaged managed service for it.
Okay, one of the issues that came out of the discussion was getting more value out of the vendor. What are some of the things that you learned from this presentation that you can take forward in that regard?
Well, one of the things that he re-emphasized is that vendors need VARs just as much as VARs need vendors. So it really is, in the end, the partnership to bring the solutions to the customer. So that's basically the message that we need to find a better way to a way to work better, I guess, and synchronize what we do with what the vendors do, so that in the end the customer gets a better solution.